Hi, this is Tamara Kelly from Moogly, and in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to make the Heatherstone Shawl, which I am wearing right here. It's a little difficult to see on me, so let's take it off and take a closer look. So here are a few photos of the Heatherstone Shawl that I took on my mannequin and laid flat. You can see this has a lovely pattern repeat. It's light, it's lacy, and it features two great colors. But of course, you can make it in whatever colors of Caron Simply Soft you like. To make my version, I used 2 skeins of the gray heather and 1 of the off-white. And here we see it on the table in front of us, all sort of wound up. There's those colors of Caron Simply Soft. As you can see, I used the gray for the interior and the white for the borders. For the hook, I used a USJ 6mm. This is a twist and lock from Susan Bates. That's about all you'll need besides some stitch markers and your usual crochet supplies of scissors and a yarn needle. You'll find the free written pattern for the Heatherstone Shawl on mooglyblog.com, so you can follow along with the written pattern, which will have the stitch counts and row counts for the full-size shawl. We'll be making a smaller sample today. Here is what size the finished shawl works out to be. We start with a wide end and decrease as we go, ending up with a shawl approximately these dimensions. That, of course, is if you get the same gauge. That said, it's a shawl. It doesn't have to fit as such, so if your gauge is slightly off, your measurements might be slightly off, but you'll still have a nice triangle shawl. You'll also note that the pattern includes some options if you prefer not to use the foundation double crochet to begin with, and if you'd like to change the size of this shawl, it uses a stitch multiple of 6 plus 1 for the first row. There's also a special stitch we're using called the picot, and there are different versions of the picot out there. For us, in this pattern, it's chain 3 and slip stitch in the first chain made. And now we're ready to get started with our shawl, and we're going to start with our main color, or color A, where I'm using the gray heather. Okay, so to begin, we start by foundation double crocheting for 133. I will be making, as I said, a smaller sample today here for our demo, but let's go ahead and start making those foundation double crochets together. To make a foundation double crochet, I start with a slip knot on my hook, and then we chain 2, 1 and 2. Then yarn over, and we're going to go into the underneath hump, which is right back here to the side of that very first chain. Insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first loop. That right there becomes the chain at the bottom of our first stitch. Then to finish our double crochet, we yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. So that right there is the top of our first foundation double crochet. All the rest of the foundation double crochets are made as follows. Yarn over, find the 2 loops, that chain I pointed out at the bottom of the previous stitch. We're going to insert our hook just above or underneath those loops, depending on how you think about it, just right there at the bottom of the stitch. Then we yarn over, pull our loop up through those loops. Then we yarn over and pull through just the first loop to create the chain at the bottom of our second stitch. Then we finish our double crochet. Yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. Let's do that together one more time. Yarn over, go under the 2 loops at the bottom of the previous stitch. There we go. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through just the first loop. Then yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Continue making foundation double crochets until you have a row of 133. So this is what it should look like at the end of row 1, but of course yours will be a whole lot longer. On our little sample here, I've started with just 19 foundation double crochets. To begin row 2, I'm going to start by chaining 1 and turning, or turning and chaining 1, however you prefer to do it, and then half double crochet in the first 2 stitches. So we yarn over and go into that first stitch, yarn over and pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. This is where I like to start bringing in those stitch markers. I like to have one in the first stitch of every row. So I'm going to go ahead and put one right in that first half double crochet. Then we half double crochet again in that second stitch. There we go. and then we chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Then we skip the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that next one here with my thumb. Next, we begin our section that begins with the asterisk. So this begins our repeat. We half double crochet in the next stitch. So that's the one I've got marked there with my thumb after we've skipped 3. There we go. And then we chain 1, skip 1, and half double crochet in the next. Then we chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we skip 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. And that's our repeat. Then we go again from the asterisk. Half double crochet in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, half double crochet in the next stitch. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and skip 3. 1, 2, 3. That's the repeat that we do all the way across until 2 stitches remain. And on our tiny little swatch, that's where we're at right now. So to finish up this row, we half double crochet in each of the last 2 stitches. So there's our first one, and there's our second one. So on a much larger scale, this is what it should look like at the end of row 2. And there should be a total of 46 half double crochets. For row 3, we start with a chain 1, and of course we need to turn, and then we're going to single crochet in the first stitch. That's our first half double crochet there. So we single crochet in the top of that half double crochet, and since it's the first stitch of our row, we can go ahead and put a stitch marker in it. There we go. Then we chain 2, 1, 2, and now is when we begin the repeat that begins with the asterisk for row 3. We work 3 double crochets in the next chain 3 space. So that'll be right there. So we want to put 3 double crochets into that space. So that means we're not working into the individual chains. We insert our hook in the space below that whole line of chains there. Pull up our loop and make 1 double crochet. And there's 2. And then 3. There we go. You can kind of even those out if you'd like, put them sort of in the middle there. You can see when we work into the chain space, those stitches have a little bit more play along those chains. Then we chain 2. Then we single crochet in the next chain 1 space. That will be right in between those 2 half double crochets. So we go right in there for a single crochet. Then we chain 2 again. 1, 2. That ends the repeat, so then we begin again at the asterisk. 3 double crochets in the next chain 3 space. 1, 2, and 3. Then we chain 2, 1, 2. Then we single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Then we chain 2 again. And we keep doing that all the way across until 1 chain 3 space remains. And that's where we've come to here on our little swatch. So in that last chain 3 space, we still want to work 3 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, and 3. There we go. And then we chain 2, 1, 2, and we finish it up with a single crochet in that very last stitch. So that will be the one with our stitch marker in it. There we go. So with that, we can take our stitch marker out of the way and use it in the first stitch of the next row. And that is what it should look like, again, on a much bigger scale at the end of row 3. And you should have a total of 66 double crochets and 23 single crochets. To begin row 4, we start with a chain of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There we go. And then of course we need to turn, and then we're going to half double crochet in the next double crochet stitch. So that's that first one of our set of 3. We put a half double crochet right in there. There we go. Then we chain 1, skip the next half double crochet, and half double crochet in the double crochet after that. Then we chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and skip to the next set of 3 double crochets. That's our repeat. Half double crochet in the first of those double crochets, chain 1, skip 1, half double crochet in the last one, and then chain 3, 1, 2, 3. This is the repeat that takes us all the way across row 4 until we get to where just those last 3 double crochets remain, which on our little swatch, we're right there. So to finish up, when you get to the end of row 4, we half double crochet in the first of those double crochets. Then we chain 1 and skip the next one, but we're going to finish by working a half double crochet 2 together. For the first leg, after we yarn over, we go into that last double crochet and pull up a loop. And then we're going to sort of cheat our half double crochet here and not yarn over again and just go right into that chain 2 space right here at the end. Then we yarn over, pull up our loop, and yarn over and pull through all 4 of those loops on our hook. And that's how we finish up row 4. So now we're ready for row 5. For this one, we're going to start with a chain 1 and then single crochet right into that next chain 1 space. So that's that space right there between the decrease we just did and the half double crochet we did before. So we go right in there for our first single crochet. And I do like to go ahead and mark that stitch. There we go. Then we chain 2, 1, 2, and then we begin our repeat for row 5. We work 3 double crochets in the next chain 3 space. So that's right there. So we want to go right in that space and work our 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. There we go. Again, we can scooch those sort of into the middle if they all end up on one side. Then chain 2 and single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Chain 2 again. And then we're ready to do it all again. 3 double crochets in the next chain 3 space, chain 2, chain 1 in the next single crochet space. So that will take us all the way across until we get to the very end here. So let's do this last repeat together. We've got our 3 double crochets in this chain 3 space here. And then chain 2. And then single crochet in the next chain 1 space. And then, of course, don't forget, chain 2 again. This brings us all the way to that big original chain 5. And in that chain 5, we're simply going to work 2 double crochets right into that chain 5 space. So there's 1 and 2. And that is what it should look like at the end of row 5. Row 6 begins with a chain 1 and then a half double crochet in each of the first 2 stitches. So we'll put our half double crochet in the first stitch. Will be the first one of those 2 double crochets there that we worked into that chain 5 space. Get that marked. And then half double crochet in the second double crochet there. There we go. Then we chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we begin our repeat for this row. We half double crochet in the next double crochet. So that's going to be jumping again all the way over to that set of 3 there. So half double crochet in that first double crochet. There we go. And then chain 1, skip 1, half double crochet in the next. And then, of course, as you might realize by now, chain 3. You can see how these repeats really do become quite easy to memorize. So every time we come to a group of 3 double crochets, we're going to do the double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the last, make sure to skip that middle one, and then chain 3, and then jump to the next set of 3. We're going to keep that up until we get to that very last set of 3 double crochets where we half double crochet in the first one, chain 1, and then, again, this is our decreasing side. You can see it coming in now. we're going to half double crochet 2 together. In that last double crochet, we put the first leg, and then we just go right into that chain 2 space, pull up our loop, and pull through all 4 loops to decrease at the end of row 6. To begin row 7, we start with our chain 1 and single crochet in that first chain 1 space. We can go ahead and mark that stitch with our stitch marker. There we go. And then we chain 2. 1, 2. And then with that, we can begin our repeat for row 7. As you can imagine, 3 double crochets right in that chain 3 space. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And then of course we chain 2, and we're going to single crochet in the next chain 1 space. And we keep that up all the way across, chain 2, 3 double crochets in the next chain 3 space, then chain 2, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, and chain 2 again, until we get to this very last repeat right here. You can see we work 3 double crochets in that last chain 3 space, chain 2, and then we finish it up with a single crochet in that very last stitch. There we go. So that is what it should look like at the end of row 7. After row 7, you have, of course, rows 8, 9, and 10, which are actually repeats of rows 4, 5, and 6. However, I've written them out in the pattern so that you can just follow rows 7 through 10 for your repeat. When you finish, you want to finish on a row 9 repeat, which is just like row 5. And this is what it should look like right here when you reach through row 85, which is your last row 9 repeat. You can see right here, there's just a few stitches left. So now it's time for row 86. For row 86, we chain 1 and half double crochet in each of the first 2 stitches. So there's 1 and 2. There we go. Then we chain 3, 1, 2, 3, half double crochet in the next double crochet. So that's going to be the first of that group of 3 there. Chain 1, skip 1, and half double crochet 2 together right away in that final double crochet and in the chain 2 space right there. There we go. Then we're ready for row 87. For row 87, we start with a chain 1 and single crochet in that first chain 1 space. We're still decreasing. There we go. Then we chain 2 and work 3 double crochets in that next chain 3 space. Oops, get that yarn over on there. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Then we chain 2 and finish it up with a single crochet right in the top of that last stitch. There we go. You can see we're really getting down to the wire now. For row 88, we start with a chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Still need to turn. There we go. Next, we're going to half double crochet in that next double crochet. Chain 1. So then we finish it up with a half double crochet in that last double crochet and the chain 2 space. Pull that on through. And that's all we've got there for row 88. Really, just 2 half double crochets. Row 89 is our last row before we do some edging. So we're going to chain 1 and turn. Single crochet in that first chain 1 space. Chain 2. And then work 2 double crochets into that chain 4 space. So there's 1 and 2. Now, even though that's the last round, or row rather, of the body of our shawl, we're not going to break our yarn. We want to do our first round, or our first bits of edging, I should say, with our color A here. If we do our edging along this side and along this side with color A, then we'll have a much nicer looking border when we add our second color. However, We are, if you're making the full-size shawl, starting to run towards the end of that second skein. So rather than going all the way around, we have edging section 1 that takes us along this edge, and then we break our yarn. And then for edging section 2, we rejoin right here and single crochet evenly along this edge. Now, the actual stitch count here doesn't matter so much. It should just be what lays nice and flat for you. A good rule of thumb for me is I tend to do 2 single crochets in the side of a double crochet, and then half double crochets are a little tricky. Sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 2. If it's a lot of half double crochets, I have to mix it up. And if it's single crochets, I do just 1 stitch in the side. Here, it's a little bit different. We've got some different height stitches here on the edges. We've got some chains. So really, it's just a matter, again, of whatever looks and feels good when you're crocheting with your gauge and your yarn and to your taste. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of it together. I'm going to start with a chain 1, and then I'm just going to turn my shawl just right this way, not back over this way, but just more like 90 degrees this way. And then we want to start by crocheting in the side of this very last row we made. And it says double crochet, so I'm going to go ahead and put 2 on here. There's 1 and 2. And if you'd like, you can go ahead and mark the first stitch here of this first bit of edging as well. Let's put our stitch marker right in there. And then again, I'm just going to kind of play it by ear, looks at the heights of these stitches. We've got a big chain space here, so I'll probably put 2 around there. And then down here, we've got one of our shorter stitches. Looks like a single crochet, so I'll put a single crochet, just 1 in the side of that row. And then here, it looks like this was probably a half double crochet, but it's pretty tall. So let's go ahead and put 2 in there. So there's 1 and then 2. And then I'm just going to continue single crocheting evenly down the side of this shawl. And by evenly, again, I don't mean a specific stitch count. It's just, if it's a really long, drawn-out section, you say, wow, this really needs 3, go ahead and put 3 there. Whatever looks good. So you can see what you really want is you want it to lay nice and flat. If it's ruffling, that means you've added too many stitches. And if it's pulling and being tight and trying to curve up, that means you haven't added enough. So you'll want to go back and add a few more here along the edge. But for now, we're just going to single crochet evenly across here. When we get to this end, we can go ahead and break our yarn. And then we rejoin it on that side and do the same thing right up this side. And then if you'd like, you can go ahead and join to that very first stitch of the edging at the top. So after you've worked edging section 1 and edging section 2, which I did not do on this small sample, but it just creates another great line there, then it's time to go ahead and start adding our contrast border. That said, if you want to keep going in the same color, that's fine, but you will need another skein of it. So when we go to add our next color or our border yarn, we want to go ahead and join with a single crochet to that first stitch of the edging we made in section 1 there. So to do that, I like to use a standing single crochet. So I'm going to drop a twisted loop on my hook, just like that. You can see how I flip it over so that the yarn end is in front of the yarn attached to the skein. If you prefer, you can start with a slip knot. Then I'm going to insert my hook right in that first stitch, our marked stitch there, yarn over and pull up a loop, and you'll notice how I've kept a hold of that tail the whole time. Now I'm going to yarn over and pull through those 2 loops, and I've got a single crochet right in that first stitch. I can just go ahead and drop that loop and weave it in when I weave in the rest of my stitches, although I do tend to hold on to it for a few stitches just out of habit. After that, for round 1 of our border, we're just going to single crochet in each stitch around. This establishes a really nice color change for us, and it will be really pretty and just add a little bit more interest to our border here. When you get down to the corner, you can see here where I worked the end of that first edging. We're just going to work right all the way across here, then chain 2, and then you can work right across the bottom of that first row. Chain 2 again, and then single crochet up the other side until you get back up here, and then you can join to the first stitch of round 1 of our border with a slip stitch, and you'll be all set for round 2, which is where the real decorative stitches happen. Now for our demo, I cheated again a little bit, but at the end of round 1 of our border here, you want to slip stitch to that first stitch of the round, And then we're ready for round 2, our final round of the shawl. We're going to start with a chain 1, and then we half double crochet right back in that first stitch. There we go. So we have our first half double crochet. And then this is where we're finally going to begin making those picots that I mentioned way back at the beginning. We begin our repeat with a picot. So that's chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to slip stitch in that first one of those chains made. Now we don't have to try and twist and figure out where to put your hook. Just go into that back hump of that first chain and put your slip stitch right there. Then we skip the next stitch and half double crochet in the stitch after that. Then we do it all again. Picot, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch in that back of that very first chain of those 3, skip the next stitch, and half double crochet in the stitch after that. That is the simplicity of that edge. And picots, more often than not, are worked with stitches close together, but here we're really taking advantage of the fact that they are a whole stitch on their own and letting them stretch out over those chain 1 spaces. Now, because we have not been super exact with our stitch count all the way around, I like to keep it a little bit more relaxed than that. You may have to fudge it just a little bit. You might come to the end and have to decide, well, gosh, I've got 2 stitches here. Am I going to skip them both and go into the corner chain 2 space? Or do I want to work a picot here and then, or a half double crochet there, then picot, then go into the corner? That's up to you. Again, it's your project. You should do whatever you think looks best. When you get into those corner spaces, I do recommend that you work a half double crochet followed by a picot and a half double crochet all into that corner space, just to give you a little bit more width and help you get around that corner. But other than that, we're just going to continue doing the same thing. Remember that repeat is picot, which is chain 3, and slip stitch in that first chain made, and then skip the next stitch and half double crochet in the stitch after that. Continue that all the way around, working a little extra repeat at the corners if need be to create that curve, and come back around until you can join with a slip stitch to that very first half double crochet, and you'll be all set with your Heatherstone shawl. And that's how to crochet the Heatherstone shawl. You'll find the free written pattern on mooglyblog.com with a PDF option available as well. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.